On the evening of May 12th, 1889, around 10:30 p.m., 16-year-old Yow Kum prepared herself for another night in a cramped brothel. As she sat before a tall window, draped in wicker blinds, her figure was only faintly visible to the light on the street below. But she still offered small waves to the men who passed by the bustling Victoria Chinatown. But it was a short distance away, where a man named Ah Heung, a Chinese immigrant and laborer, rented a room, was also preparing for something. He dressed with care, slipped into familiar streets below, and headed, as he did most nights, straight for the brothel. For months, nearly every evening, he had visited the young girl there, and their encounters began to become more of an obsession. That night, as he approached the window where Yow Kum tried to catch the eye of strangers, no one seemed to really notice him. He had become a constant, visible presence among the narrow lanes. So, as he moved closer in the dark, the bustling town didn't seem to notice exactly that the intentions tonight were different, and a darkness was about to unfold that would change that narrow street forever. Welcome back, spooky souls, to an all-new episode of Let's Talk Spooky. This is our last installment of our Haunted Road Trip edition, and I'm so excited to end this with probably my favorite location we've done so far. And that is the beautiful, very haunted Vancouver Island. We also have had tons of new subscribers and followers in the last few weeks while we've been on this really wonderful road trip of ours. And I want to say hi and shout out to you guys. This has been a very interesting and exciting experience, and I'm excited for you guys to join along the way. Let me know where you're listening from and say hi. I'd love to hear from you guys. If you're new here, again, this show is very much about haunted history, folklore, and the eerie legends from all over the world. I'm your host, Shauna, and tonight we're heading into the beautiful Vancouver Island to walk the narrow cobblestone streets of Victoria, the storm-battered shores of Ucluelet, and maybe some haunted graveyards along the way. So, settle in, grab your flashlight, and as always, let's talk spooky. When Ah Heung stepped inside the brothel that night, he was welcomed with the same indifference as he had always had. The owners of the brothel remained downstairs in the smoking opium, paying little attention to what was about to unfold above them. And it was this neglect in the haze that Yow Kum was left at her most vulnerable. The details of what happened next would horrify the city. By the time others realized what was going on, the room upstairs had become a scene of unimaginable violence. Yow Kum was found lifeless, her throat so savagely cut that it hung on by pieces of skin. Her body was marked with wounds so vicious that newspapers quickly drew comparisons to the infamous Jack the Ripper crimes that were gripping London at the time. For a city like Victoria, such brutality was unthinkable and nearly unheard of. Downstairs, the brothel keepers claimed that they had heard nothing, whether drowned out by smoke, chatter, or by simple ignorance, left a man fleeing for his life and a woman dead on the floor. Ah Heung slipped through the narrow Chinatown streets, and as witnesses saw him vanish through the passageways, they heard behind him the cries of murderer. Police chased him through the twisted alleys, lantern lights bouncing against the brick walls, as footsteps echoed through the night. Fan Tan Alley, no wider than a shoulder span in place, swallowed him whole. But as we all know, escape is nearly impossible in cities like this. He was caught by dawn and dragged from his hiding place, accused of a crime so savage it rattled even the hardened police officers of the time. Because violence in the red light district was unheard of in their area. By morning, the city was buzzing with the crime's knowledge. Crowds gathered outside the brothel, newspapers rushed to get headlines printed, and the heart of Chinatown whispered the poor girl's name that would be tied forever to one of the darkest crimes in Victoria's history. Now, over the years, local folklore has held what they believe is a ghost of this tragic event. And it's not the ghost that you think. It's the ghost of Ah Heung, who is often seen running down narrow, twisted lanes of the Chinatown, lanterns flickering behind him in the damp night air, and the smell of opium drifting through the parlors as he passed. Somewhere behind him, faint, ghostly voices of murderer can be heard, and his footsteps pounding against the cobblestone echo off brick walls and are heard even to this day, until he vanishes through the dark walls of the areas of Fan Tan Alley. Though police caught him quickly, many believe his spirit never truly escaped or was never allowed to be truly settled. Over the years, stories have grown, tour guides have whispered, and if you stand in Fan Tan Alley on a quiet night, you may hear just what they're talking about. Or feel it. The sudden rush of running footsteps coming up fast behind you. Some swear they've even seen a man dart between doorways, head snapping over his shoulders in panic, still being chased by phantom cops. His clothes are old-fashioned, his face is twisted in horror, and he's covered in blood. And then he's gone, melting into the bricks and dissolving into the shadows of the night air, exactly where the alley comes to an end. One shopkeeper in the 1920s told of locking up late only to feel a gust of cold air push past him. A man in traditional Chinese garments ran through the streets, his arms open wide, but when the shopkeeper turned to follow him, the alley was empty. Similar, in 1970s, during Chinatown's revitalization, workers claimed to have seen the same figure, covered in blood, sprinting in silence, and disappearing into the walls around them. More recently, tour guides have walked through the night and reported the same fleeting presence of a man forever running from his fate, forever gazing behind him, unable to outrun the gallows he eventually met. But the lingering spirit of Yow Kum isn't as commonly seen or felt. The location where the brothel used to be is now an all brand new building and is no longer stained as it was all those years ago. But her presence sometimes is still felt there. Sorrow, cold spots, only more faint than the restless spirit of her killer. There is no frantic desperational calls. There's no screams of sadness. Just a faint, cool whisper of lost hope. So if you find yourself in Fan Tan Alley after dark, listen carefully. This alley is incredibly narrow. Like, I could stand my hands on each side, and I'm a pretty short person. And you can press the walls on either side with your palms, and they do feel like they're closing in. So every sound in this area is amplified, making the sound of your own heartbeat louder, and the sound of phantom footsteps that never quite stop running, even more chilling when there's no one around. On the far eastern edge of Victoria Island, there's a land that has a restless pull about it. As you look out to its endless Pacific Ocean, the sea never truly seems to be at rest here. The waves crash violently against jagged black rocks, storms roll in without warning, and a fog settles that's thick and unnatural feeling. And if you listen, you can hear the faint sounds of bells, hollers, and ships hitting the waves. This is the infamous Amphitrite Lighthouse. Our story begins on Christmas Day, 1906, when the trading vessel Pass of Melfort disappeared into a winter storm off Amphitrite Point. With no lighthouse at the time to warn her crew, the whistling buoy only marked the reef that was already torn away by gales. The ship never stood a chance, and as she struck the jagged rocks and broke apart, every single life on board was lost. Locals said the cries of sailors being carried away by the waves and the wind lasted for days after, because it took the storm days to pass through. No rescue was able to be given, and people had to listen as each crew member slowly succumbed to the waves. That disaster changed everything, and after that, a small wooden lighthouse was hastily built in 1906. Its lamp meant to pierce the coastal darkness, but the ocean here is different. It's unforgiving. And after only 8 years of storms, the structure was destroyed in 1914. A stronger, more concrete lighthouse was built in its place in the following years, and for decades it kept watch until automotion left the tower empty, unbroken still, but silent against the restless sea below her. For many, the Amphitrite Point is a place of safety. It's a light that guided sailors home. But for others, it's a place where the past clings to the present day. Visitors who walk the wild Pacific Trail have spoke about hearing the toll of ship bells when no vessel seems to be in sight. Stormy nights, some claim they've heard screams tangled in the wind, calls for help over ragged voices, and waves crashing against rocks. And even some have seen the silhouettes of what look like men struggling to pull themselves to shore. The former keepers of this lighthouse have told of footsteps crunching across the gravel outside, pacing around the tower in the dead of night, only to find the door open and no one out there waiting for them. Just the beginnings of fog and a raging storm to come. Stories like these remind us that hauntings are not always fueled of terror, and sometimes they're replaying of memories, residual, that carry weight from real tragedies and that echo over time and can't be washed away. Perhaps what people hear is not just the sea, but the past refusing to be forgotten, and the souls of those lost in the shipwrecks around that coast, trying to still be remembered. Before we continue, I do want to give a shout out to the amazing staff at Image West Gallery Souvenir Shop at downtown Ucluelet. This place is full of fun, trinkets, witchy finds, and the staff is just amazing. They do have typical touristy things too, like shirts and sweaters and things like that, but they have so many beautiful, unique crafted pieces that I highly, highly recommend that if you're visiting Ucluelet, to go in here. Good prices, good people, you won't be disappointed. Shout out to the gentleman who helped me both times I was there, because yes, I went back twice. He gave me the book that actually inspired this episode, The Haunting of Vancouver Island by Shannon Sin. If you have not read this book, I do recommend it. It's told by a journalist's point of view, and it's very captivating. So if you find yourself in Ucluelet and you're wondering, what shop do I go stop in? Check out Image West Gallery. I promise you, you're going to love it. You're going to spend your money, and you're going to probably thank me later, or maybe not. And if you are listening, the wonderful man who helped me out, this episode is for you guys. Amphitrite Point isn't the only haunting that these waters carry. Sailors crossing the Strait of Georgia have talked about a vessel between Vancouver Island and the mainland that travels fully aflame. The mast, the deck, everything is engulfed in fire. As it cuts across the horizon in eerie silence, mariners rush to help, steering their ships and boats towards the disaster, only to watch in shock as the burning ship dissolves, disappearing into the endless, empty sea around it. It's not 100% sure what ship this is, but many believe that it might be a representation of many ships, as that coast has seen over thousands of shipwrecks recorded. So maybe it's a phantom flame ship, or maybe it's just a manifestation of all that are lost in those waters. Now, let's journey back to Victoria for a little bit, because downtown Victoria holds more than just Chinatown. It holds St. Anne's Academy as well. Established in 1850 by Sisters of St. Anne, this Catholic teaching order left Quebec to open schools, orphanage, and hospitals in British Columbia. For over a century, academic education of children filled the halls with voices of students, footsteps, and nuns who guided them. But for some who visit the location today, it seems that the Sisters of St. Anne's might not have truly left. The Academy grounds, including the chapel, date back to 1858, brought piece by piece from France, and even in daylight, the atmosphere inside this building is heavy. At night, however, something else entirely wakes. Security guards, staff, and visitors alone have reported strange occurrences and the sounds of soft footsteps pacing the hallways, even when the building is supposed to be completely empty. Even the sound of rustling habits, though as soon as the nun is to turn the corner, there's nothing there but the faint smell of incense drifting in the air. Some say nuns appear in full apparition form, a woman in her black habit slightly walking through the corridors, then vanishing as those approach her. Others described as waking from naps while sitting on the lawn for a picnic, only to see a nun watching them from above the windows or the steps of the building. There's also been former accounts of night watchmen who hear whispering in Latin, chills in the back of their neck, and the sensation of being watched from the choir loft. And more than one person has claimed to see a solitary nun kneeling at the chapel pews in silent prayer, only to fade before their eyes. But why do they linger? Some believe it's devotion to the location. that the sisters remain tied to the school itself, as the chapel was built off their own sacrifice, their own time, and their own teachings. Others suggest that it's a duty, a vow to watch over the children and the community that they once served. But there's always a darker interpretation, and that seems to hold the most weight. The strict discipline, the repression, and the suffering within the Catholic institutions left an energy that still seems to resonate through this building. Today, St. Anne's Academy is a heritage site. It holds weddings, concerts, public tours, but anyone who walks the ground at dusk knows that there is more than just bricks and mortar here. That there is something much stronger in the air, and a spiritual energy you just can't shake. And finally, our final location on the beautiful Vancouver Island is on the southeastern shore of Victoria, framed by the restless sea and the Garry Oaks that line Canada's most haunted cemetery, Ross Bay Cemetery. This land was once owned by Isabella Mainville Ross, a Métis woman who in 1853 became one of the first female landowners in British Columbia. She purchased nearly 100 acres here, using the bay as both farmland to support her family and eventually selling off a portion of the property to make the city's very first official cemetery, which her husband was buried in later after his passing in 1872. Though Isabella herself was laid elsewhere, which I think is a little funny, but that's just me. The name Ross Bay Cemetery has remained forever its name. And it does tie her story to the location, and maybe her spirit as well. From the beginning, Ross Bay Cemetery became the final home for both powerful and forgotten. Among some of the monuments lay graves of premiers, governors, and even coal miners. And sailors, orphans, and whoever else was buried. But the bay has never been a gentle resting place. Early storms eroded the shoreline, washing caskets into the ocean. And witnesses say there were days where bones would float along the seashore because the ground had eroded and the caskets fell out. Later in the 1960s and 70s, the cemetery was plagued by vandalism and rumors of occult rituals, leaving monuments broken and unsettled. Perhaps through all of these disturbances is why Ross Cemetery is so deeply infamous for its haunting. The most famous apparition here is the woman in black. Witnesses describe her as a tall figure in heavy mourning clothes, face hidden in a dark veil, and she's often seen drifting slowly between headstones, pausing as though searching for someone's grave. In the 1980s, a man walking home late claimed he'd saw her, but then she vanished through a patch of fog once he got near. A group of teenagers in the 1990s swore that she followed them down the path at the edge of the ocean and then completely disappeared when they turned to look. Others have shared their own chilling encounters. A local woman told walking her dog along the seawall when she heard the footsteps of something behind her, but no one was there. Scariest part is her dog froze, growling into the mist, when she heard a woman's voice whisper her name. A number of paranormal investigators have also visited this location in the early 2000s, capturing the sounds of faint cries, mutters, and apparitions recorded in both camera and audio. Many visitors report sudden drops in temperature, cold spots, the feeling of hands brushing against their arms, and an inescapable feeling of being watched. Shadow figures dart between graves, the sound of children laughing, and even strange lights and orbs floating between, where the earth vanishes into the cliffs of the darkness and the ocean below. But for those who believe, they're not tricks of the fog or the sea breeze. These are real spirits that still walk Ross Cemetery, reminding us that history is still here, even if we don't want to believe it is. So by day, the cemetery is a place of quiet beauty where you could walk your dog and enjoy the cool breeze of the ocean. There are walking paths and bike paths and areas that you can enjoy picnics. But at night, as the fog rolls off the ocean and the stones gleam in the moonlight, Ross Bay Cemetery becomes entirely its own entity. So if you find yourself wandering there after dark, which I unfortunately did not get the chance to do, let me know, take pictures, do recordings, and let me know if you see or hear anything. There are many more stories of this beautiful haunted shore in Vancouver Island. And one day we're going to return. We're going to tell you more spooky stories, and we're going to explore more of the beauty it has to offer and the chills it sends down our spines. And I'm so happy you guys had the opportunity to enjoy and explore this beautiful Western Canada with me. Each location has revealed the same truth, I think, is that this land is beautiful, it's old, and it's not forgotten. That haunted places are more than just houses. They're bones, dirt, and earth, and they hold the stories of everything our past has to offer. They're memories carved into the land, carried across the waves, and rooted in the very formation of where we call home. So if you've enjoyed tonight's journey, don't forget to hit that follow button wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, if you have an episode that you would like featured, an episode idea or a story, please send me an email at letstalkspookypodcast@gmail.com and share it with your other spooky friends. Help us connect on Instagram and TikTok at Let's Talk Spooky Pod. And if you've had your own brushing story with the haunted world out there, let us know. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and stay spooky. This episode was written and produced by me, Shauna. If you have your own eerie tale or hometown haunting you want to share, email us at letstalkspookypodcast@gmail.com or follow us at Let's Talk Spooky Instagram or Let's Talk Spooky Pod on TikTok. All source material and resources for this show can be found in the show notes below.